Hello everyone and welcome back to LightWave Digest, the second episode, and we have a fantastic guest. And I'm actually going to reveal that guest right now, and that is Lewis. He's an amazing sub-D modeling artist for hard surface objects, and you don't want to miss that stuff, so please stay with us. With that said, I have also a co-host, and I'm joined by Andrew.
Hello, welcome to LightWave Digest. I'm here again. You're stuck with me again.
So, talking about what has happened since the last time, it's not a lot of stuff that has happened, but there have been some things happening. So, for example, the people that actually paid for something when it comes to Lightwave Digital, the offers that they made, they're actually receiving stuff. So they are receiving swag.
It's all going out. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are some problems, though, with the hoodies. Do you know more about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I got mine. I got a T-shirt. It was great. It's fine. I probably should wear it today, but I didn't. But yeah, it's fantastic. But I've seen a lot of people getting problems. The company that they've got, or several companies, I think, because they've got worldwide distribution. They've misregistered the design, so it's not sitting. It's a bit cropped in some cases. It's a bit unfortunate, but they've got a collector's edition now. It's like stamps. When you get a stamp where they printed it upside down, it's worth twice as much as an actual stamp.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it could be. So, I mean, I think that they've basically just said to make sure you get in touch and let them know, and they'll hopefully be able to sort you out.
Yeah, I actually got my hoodie, and it's also cropped at the top.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's but like I think it seems to be mostly the hoodies. My T-shirt's fine. I've not heard anybody mention the T-shirts. Yeah, let us. I was going to say, let us know in the comments if if you've had any disasters with your T-shirt. But in a way, I still think it's exciting. It's starting to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
LightWave exists now. It's,
yes.
People are getting their licenses sorted. They're starting to. Some people are coming into LightWave 2020 for the first time and are confused. Hopefully the various Facebook groups and chat areas that still exist will be able to help you. I've certainly helped out a couple of users, hoping the rest of us can do the same.
Yep.
So, in other news, we've also recently got a new Generalist showreel released on the blog, which is good to see that the blog's actually up and running, even though the rest of the website isn't. So if you didn't know about that, you should follow the link. We'll provide that. It's a really nice little demo reel showcasing some of the top talent that LightWave has to offer over the last few years, and some very impressive stuff. So it's well worth looking at it. Put together by Tony Hall again. Is a wonderful collaborator. He works an awful lot with the new tech, also rather the LightWave Digital Group. Gosh, whatever it is called these days.
Yeah.
So he's been helping them out a lot with sourcing all of this content, getting the various permissions to make sure that everybody agrees to it. So it's not unsolicited. He's not stealing any of this stuff. But yeah, it's beautiful stuff. Very impressive, and probably some of us who are big mega fans will have seen it all before. But it's brilliant that they put together something to give a bit of buzz about LightWave. Hopefully, it's all onward and upward.
Yeah, I think I love that show. Really, it was really, really good. And one of the things though that bothered me a little bit is the reaction to it, because some people said that, hey, why are you including Chris Jones' work in this showreel? And people were sort of accusing LightWave Digital to stealing another person's work. And that is not true. I really want to emphasize that everything that is shown in that showreel has been communicated to everyone that is involved in that showreel, and Chris Jones wanted to be on that showreel.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, he's obviously moved on now. You never know, he might come back if LightWave gets all the tools he needs. He was a passionate LightWave user, like a lot of us still are. You never know. I don't know. I haven't asked him, but he did a lot of his really impressive work, and he's very proud of that. And I don't see what the problem is in him wanting to showcase that it was all done in LightWave. There was no third-party apps, as far as I know. Oh, I think he did use that Sculptress, didn't he? Sculptress, and probably paid him
Yes.
his. But the majority, the rigging, all of the impressive technical morphs and all of that, it's all done in LightWave. So,
Yeah. But
showcase what you've done.
I mean, when it comes to art, character stuff, you don't make those type of characters inside of any 3D application. You need to use a sculpting tool to do that. I mean, there's a reason why most of all of our character artists in the games industry, they use a ZBrush for a reason. And then once you have sculpted the character in ZBrush, you then export it so that it can become something that is useful in a real-time application like a game.
Yeah. And I mean, I think even, now it has been the case for a while, and it's the world that LightWave's coming back into is just multi-pipeline. It's something that it's going to have to address to make sure that everything works brilliantly with pipelines. It's always had a strong OBJ, but FBX always been a bit flaky. There's the odd problem with it. But yeah, absolutely solid input output is going to be one of the goals, I think, of LightWave going forward, and hopefully making LightWave the hub, creative hub for a lot of tools. So yes. Also, let's segue neatly into also Chris Jones' video, which is fantastic. So we'll provide a link in the comment section. It was a video that I think it was the last one that he actually did with LightWave. It's a little bit twinged with sadness, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's like a synchronization between visuals and music. I think did he create the music himself?
Yeah, he's the composer of the music, because people they have watched some other. I think it was one of his other Lightwave based videos, and they loved the music that I have made there. And so people were asking him, "Hey, can't you make a full length track?" And he did. He took 4 years. 2 years to make the video and 2 years to make the music for the video.
Very impressive. And it's clear from watching it, it's not just a 10-minute exercise. It's a labor of love. It's not the first labor of love he's done. He's a very talented guy. And so it's lovely to see that he's, so shout out to Chris Jones. Watch that. That was the whole point of the tweet. He said he didn't get an awful lot of likes and watches. So please do watch it. It's beautiful. And we'll provide the link in our comment section.
Yeah, and to add to that, he's Ed was one of his most viewed. I think it has over 6 million views, and then String Theory is like not even a 1 million views, and it deserves 10 million views because it's just a magnificent example of what you can do with LightWave. I do think that he used Blender at some point, helping LightWave to do certain things.
Oh, I mean, I don't know very many Lightwavers these days that don't use more than one app. I just don't.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's part of life. You find the best tool for the job for you, or for the task, depending on how you like to work, and use that. There's no law.
yeah,
you're not banned from using Blender.
exactly. And that actually is a good segue into tonight's guest that we'll have.
I've known Lewis like kind of one-on-one for quite a long time. We chat often, and he's super talented, super knowledgeable, more than just subdivision rendering. He is a huge expert on lighting. Like, he knows an awful lot. And, like, if you need to know about IAS lighting, he's a person I would go to, because it's the first person I would go to. He's done so many experiments. He knows how it should work, how it's supposed to look. Very technically knowledgeable about it. Beyond his modeling expertise, which I think if you're familiar with LightWave, you know about his stuff. He's done so many amazing things over the years. Crazy stuff. But very impressive, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Yeah. Enjoy the interview with Lewis. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this guest. He has been using LightWave for many years. He's probably mostly known for his vehicle modeling and rendering and shading and all that stuff. He's probably mostly known as Lewis. Hello, Lewis. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for warm welcome. Yeah, my nickname is Louis. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your real name?
My real name is Elvis. So
Elvis?
It's not far different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just playing around with the letters there.
Yeah. It got on my first job. I worked on TV stations, so it got picked up. Someone flipped the letters when they're typing the credits, and it stuck. And that's it.
Nice. But before we go into your very long career and stuff like that, one of the things I usually want to hear about is your history, like your first computer experience. How old were you? What did you do? And all that stuff. So take us back to that magical moment where you found a computer and you sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, my first computer was something, because I live in Croatia, former Yugoslavia back then in 80s, and we had some kind of kids school where you could go. It was like 30, 40 kids after the school basically, and we had computers, but there was local computers here like Galaxia, Oral, and then we got Apple IIc, but since we were too young back then. Like I was like first or second grade of elementary school, and then the older colleagues could play, and we were just standing behind and watching and admiring how they could play games. So basically, my first computer was Commodore C116, which was European version of VIC-20 or something, before Commodore 64 in 80s. And then later on, I got Amiga, of course.
Yes.
I got Amiga in the early 90s. And then when I started working on TV station, that was like 95-6, I got my Amiga 1200 basically. But that one didn't have enough memory for LightWave back then. But on the TV station, we had Genlock and Amiga 2000, 3000. So yeah, I could start using LightWave there. And then later flip on my side, like a teenager working on Amiga 1200. And I got the Blizzard extension for Amiga, so you could have a co-processor and a faster CPU and more memory, and then I could start LightWave on my machine, because back then I think LightWave 3.5 was the first standalone version, but you needed like 4 gigs of memory, and Amiga was having only 2 back then. Megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes, yeah.
Yeah.
Would be nice. That was the gigabytes back then, yeah.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, so yeah, I had basically 18 megabytes of memory, 16 in extension card and 2 in main machine, yeah. And that's how my LightWave journey started, like 9 years ago. And it's stuck. It's still there.
So would you say that the Amiga was sort of opening that creative use for you, that, oh, I can do 3D on this machine, and 3D was something that you wanted to do. It was it natural for you to jump into 3D?
Yeah, on Commodore 64, I started drawing the pictures. I even had
Okay.
a pen which you could on TV draw on TV. Like today we have a Wacom and stuff like that, but back then it was like a pen on a cable. You plug it in Commodore and draw on actual TV. Of course, my parents would love that when I'm drawing with a pen on TV. But it was my first drawing session, and then I started creating like images in Simon's Basic and stuff, and then when switched to Amiga D Paint, or what was Deluxe Paint, yeah, that was my first start, and then Imagine and Real 3D and LightWave, yeah, and
Yeah.
PovRay and stuff like that. But yeah, that was too much code for me, PovRay, because you had to type in to render something.
Oh yeah, it was command line. Yeah, in
Yeah,
shell.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked great if you could wait like 2 days, but yeah, I wasn't really fan of typing to render. Yeah, so I got my three button mouse for Amiga long ago. So yeah, it was really cool to use it. I had luck because I got the job on TV station, so we had all the software there. So it was easy, and the hardware. So yeah, I remember I was making the logos and shorts like videos, and then with that Genlock, you just move the handle and it goes on the screen. So you move back and it disappears, and that was like magic back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Genlock stuff. Yeah, I remember. Back then we had pretty much every video studio, at least at schools. Pretty much every video studio had Amigas back then, Amiga 4000s or 2000s
Yep.
for genlocking. Not so much for rendering power, but for genlocking graphics, it was super good. And with Scala, did you have Scala as well? Scala,
Yeah. Scala 200.
Yeah.
And Scala later on PC. Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we used it later on TV station. We get like a PC 200 MMX Pentium or something like that, and then was the Scala because yeah, Amiga was kind of gone, so there was a need to switch to something else.
Yeah, sad when they. Well, that's a completely different story, but yeah, there are so many documentaries on what happened there, so we don't have to go into what happened with the Amiga. But so, well, we sort of have established now that you started off with sort of Imagine, Real 3D, and
LightWave.
and LightWave, yes. So, what other tools have you learned over the years, except for LightWave? When moving forward, I guess you kept using LightWave.
Yeah, I use LightWave, and then I start using Adobe products because yeah, it was necessity for video effects and photo editing like Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere Pro, and then I'm using the Rhizome UV for UV maps. Then I use 3D Code for retopo work and some painting, and then I use Modo a bit. And then Blender, of course, as we all. And at some point, I was using 3D Studio Max very often because I was working back then at some Microsoft game. So I had to create the models for the unnamed game, basically, and it required that the finished models have smooth groups, and I couldn't do that in LightWave back then. But then we got the smooth groups in LightWave, so I don't need to do that anymore in 3D Max. So yeah, I'm full LightWave for 3D and a bit of Modo and Blender.
Smoothing groups. Yes, you were the one that actually made the tutorial for that.
Yeah, because I was forcing them to create that because I needed it so badly because I didn't want to switch between Max and LightWave all the time. Yeah. And to be fair, they did pretty good job on the smoothing groups. It works almost exactly like in 3D Studio Max with some even better stuff, easier to use. But
cool.
people do not really understand the power of them, so yeah, we should show them more.
Yeah, I think isn't it in Maya where they use edge weighting instead
Yeah,
of
they
smoothing groups?
use edge, sharp, and smooth. Yeah, but in Max, and the Max was, at least it still is for the game industry, the like a standard also. So yeah, the models had to be exported from 3D Studio Max with the smoothing groups, and the game was Microsoft one, so it was pretty big game, and they still use it that way. The car game, of course. Yeah, I made like 10 cars or so. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I mean, nowadays I think Maya is sort of taking over a little bit of the gaming industry because new engines comes out and they support, I think, both smoothing groups and edge weighting, softness, or hard edge or soft edge stuff.
Yeah, basically, when you export the model and you get right in the vertex normals, it doesn't really matter. Was it edge or polygon?
Oh,
because final,
true.
it looks good. But the problem was because I couldn't edit that in LightWave back then. So if I needed to change anything, I would need to do it in 3D Studio Max, which I was not really that fluent. So it was like losing time all the time. So flip, go back and fix, and then go back and change. And then I was like fixing the parts of the model in Modeler, and then exporting only that and welding that piece in the Max, because when you do it, you kill the smooth group on that area. You cannot really knife it or weld it or anything like that. So it was really, really good feature for me, at least.
Oh, that actually brings up a very painful memory I have. It was for the Division, when we actually announced the Division, and I was sort of simulating something in LightWave that was modeled in Maya, and then every time I simulated something in LightWave, I had to, because it was bones, I had to convert the simulation into bones and then transfer that over to Maya. But every time I did that, I destroyed the artist's work. So the artist had to re-add the smoothing groups and the shader, I think, every time.
That's the problem, yeah. There's the problem of mixed pipeline. That's the problem, basically. If you have mixed pipeline, yeah, you need to make it seamless as possible.
Yes, so that felt a little bit bad when we did that stuff. But we had to do what we had to do, right? We just had to deliver something. So, and the artist, she delivered, she made I think for her it was like 2 or 3 minutes of work, and then it was done. So it wasn't like, it was not a pain for her in that sense. But still, it just reminded me of one of the things, when you don't have, when you rely on a feature and then you bring something into a package that doesn't have that feature and you destroy something, that's sort of
you feel bad for the person behind you.
Exactly.
which needs to fix it. Yeah. So I understand the feeling. Yeah. I was lucky enough to get that feature in LightWave pretty quickly.
Yeah.
After only a few years of pain.
Yeah. We only asked quite a few times, and obviously the slide tool.
Yeah, that's my never-ending story.
Yeah, you only ever ask for that every other day.
Yeah, for the last like 10 years, no more.
But I also remember, you have been part of the beta team for quite some time as well, right?
Yes, since 2006 or 7, something like that.
Yeah, it's probably similar to me. I was sort of on and off here and there, but I remember you. If we need to talk about Core for a moment here, because I think Core actually introduced a bunch of really interesting concepts, like the stack modifier that's similar to Modo, I think. But I do remember I set up this Core FTP, and you were using it most of everyone, because you made like hour-long videos on presenting the bugs and issues.
Yeah, what was wrong basically with the workflow and stuff, because back
yeah.
then the new tech was, I think J-Rod was the in charge for development, and
Yeah.
basically I was showing him how to make it more LightWave like, because the first versions were completely different.
Oh yeah. It was like no other software, right?
But it got better with time. I mean, even the system, of course, it couldn't be same because it was unified application. So you had like object mode and the polygon selections. So it's not like you jump in the modeler and you always have the polygons, points, edges on, basically. So like in any other software, you need to switch between object, which is in LightWave basically layout, and switch back to if you want to edit something on the polygons. So that's the only like a downside in a sense with feeling like LightWave, but other stuff could be good. But yeah, that's it. They just dropped it and they didn't have a courage to continue. I guess we will never know true reasons, probably.
Yeah, it was a huge amount of work. I mean, they made the decision to pull it, which, and some people think it was a good idea, some people don't. It was very contentious at the time.
But basically, they didn't present it well, so that's why some people think it was wrong, because they just made a new program and said that's it. I mean, you can't really do that like right now. If LightWave Digital didn't really buy LightWave, we would need to switch to something else. And the core felt like, okay, I switched the program. I need to learn everything else from beginning. So why not switch to something which is already in the industry, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
If they had more thinking and more time to show users and tell them, okay, this is just the first version, we are going to progress and stuff like that, I guess they ran out of time because it was like too crazy to expect completely new program in 2 years. So, yeah. But I like the core, yeah, definitely, in a sense.
As you say, it was a step forward in certain areas and a step backwards in others. So, but I think VPR was one of the things that they invented in Core and then transferred over to LightWave 10, I think, right?
Yeah, they moved the VPR from Core to LightWave 10, yeah. But we had FPrime before that, so it's kind of maybe not really that the core was necessary to have VPR and then switch it. They would probably write one for the LightWave Classic, as they called it back then. Anyway, because FPrime was like a hit back then.
Oh yeah, I think FPrime was, if you think about it, FPrime was sort of keeping LightWave 8 alive, because during LightWave 8, that's when the guys, half the team left.
Modo split, yeah.
Yeah, the Modo split. So they had to find new developers, and FPrime sort of came in like a saving grace almost, because everyone was talking about FPrime, not just LightWave users. Other people like using Maya or 3D Studio Max, they were like, what black magic is this? It renders so fast,
And it renders progressively. I mean,
yes.
It saves the file all the time, and you leave it more, it gets better quality, which still is like magic today.
Yes.
Okay, we have so many channels, AOVs and passes, so that's probably not possible now. But even if it would be possible just for the like a regular all-in camera, it would be great, because basically I never missed the deadline with FPrime, because you just render complete animation from first frame to the last one, and then just leave it to progress more and more and more. And you start editing because you have all the frames. You have like a settings. It was like half, then 1, and then 1.5, then 2, some kind of sample number or whatever was that back then. So basically you render complete like 1,000 frames in like 2-3 hours, and you can start editing if you need to edit something in that animation. But FPrime in the background, it's still increasing the quality, which was like a unique feature, and it still is. When you look at, nobody does it that way. You need to set the sample number and then wait that exact sample number to be reached, which can be totally different. In Octane, there is an option to render by time. So it's kind of similar because if you have like 100 frames and you have like 3 hours to render that, then you split the 3 hours by 100 and tell Octane to render like, give me like 2-3 minutes, I don't know now how much would be to divide it, and then you get quality what's got in that time, but you cannot continue. In FPrime you could like render tomorrow again and continue from that sample number.
It saved like a special little cache file, didn't it? So you was able to just continuously build on that cache file.
Yeah, it was one file, and everything was there. How, I don't know, black magic.
Yeah, Worley
magic.
Yeah, Worley magic. I was thinking about. I think I heard someone actually made it so that he could actually use FPrime on a render farm as well, which actually was kind of crazy because you could have like 100 computers doing exactly what you said. It's just that it goes 100 times faster. You know, so yeah, it's insane. But yeah, moving on here, one of the things that makes me curious also is that you have stayed with LightWave for all these years, and I'm sort of interested to know a little bit why, what it is that makes you come back to LightWave and not have moved on.
I tried to use other software, and I always get back to LightWave because you always miss something. And when you are using it that long, you have some of your workflows and plugins and stuff. And when you start working professionally, you don't have so much time to learn something new because the jobs are pressing you. You have a deadlines. So when do you learn something new? It's kind of tricky.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned the parts of model which I needed. Then I learned the 3D code because I needed retopo, because often I get the CAD models which need to be like retopo scan, so it cannot be used because it's too heavy or something like that, and then I retopo that. And it was because in LightWave we don't have a background snapping and stuff like that. It was like a hard. I did retopo of one car with the splines. Basically, I created the splines over the CAD data and spline patched completely from the zero the car, but it was too slow. So then I decided I need another package, and then I got 3D code, and like I had to learn it because I had the job to do. So I learned that part, and I still use it till this day, only for retopo. I don't need it for anything else. And then for model, I had some special functions. And then we got that like local mode for rotation, moving, and stuff like that. We didn't have that. We had like a cursor space mode, like a select all, and pivot modes. So if you wanted like rotate 10 different models at the same time in the modeler, you couldn't rotate each one on his axis. You needed to select one by one and do it on selection mode. And we got that piece in LightWave also, so I needed model less and less. So it's basically, as they add more features, I have a less need to switch to something else. But as I said, I used 3D Studio Max for some jobs. I used a lot of... Only software I didn't use was Softimage or XSI. I used even Maya back on PC on TV Studio when I worked there, when it was Maya version 1 or 2, not really sure. So it was long ago. And I used Cinema 4D on Amiga first,
Oh, you did?
and not on PC at all. So yeah, it was back then. So
Oh yeah, Cinema 4D. I actually forgot about that one. Yeah, it's actually started on Amiga as well.
Yep.
All the good stuff started on the Amiga, it seems.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we had sort of touched on this GPU stuff, GPU versus CPU, because when we were doing a lot of production with CPU based rendering, we actually did a lot of compositing. So we did, do you remember Janus?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for exporting plugin for exporting multiple passes. Yeah, in LightWave.
We were heavily users of that because then we could just say, okay, let's render the background by itself, render the environment, the characters by themselves and stuff, and then just composite it.
Yeah, back then that was the problem for GPU for Octane. Even version 2 didn't have so much passes or stuff like that, so you could render only in camera. So I understand it was not really useful for studios. But right now, you can export like 100 passes from Octane also. Yeah. So it's just a question, what do you need? Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that I've noticed now is that because GPUs are so darn fast, people tend to sort of, let's just do it in camera. Let's make it look as good as possible and then just render everything in one pass. Which, if you are using a GPU or CPU, you really need to do passes in order to be competitive, I think. And that's one of the things I feel a bit handicapped right now with LightWave, because LightWave doesn't have a multi-render layering system for renders. So, any thoughts on that?
I mean, it has a buffers. You can export a lot of stuff from LightWave also. Yeah. It just depends what exactly do you need. But for me, I also render all in camera what I can, but I just check the passes which I need, like material ID, object ID. So if I need to fix something, because for the still shots, I just do some Photoshop tweaks. It doesn't really have to. For instance, let me show one render. That was see, like this one. I did this in camera, DOF. Everything is in camera. I didn't do it later because it was so fast in Octane, and I just switch. See this now, this is in focus and this is blurry. You just move the null object and you can animate and stuff. And when you do with passes, the problem becomes, because here you have see, there is a glass here or plastic, whatever it is, yeah. And if you do like a depth pass, it stops at this glass.
Oh yeah, of course.
It doesn't go to the dials actually. So you have a problem, and that's the same problem we have in Archviz basically with the passes in post, because often you have something like a big window and you have a tree behind that window. So how do you do a depth pass in that case? I mean, it's a tricky. So yeah, in Octane, it doesn't really suffer much for the render time in Octane because I use like a lot of passes anyway, a lot of samples. So it's not really gonna be a problem. So it looks clean.
Yeah, just to clarify, what I mean with render passes are not AOVs or buffers. It's more like if you have this very busy scene where, let's say, you have this forest in the background with thousands of instances. You want to break that you want to be able to render that part alone, right?
Yeah, like a layers, basically.
Yeah, and that is the stuff that LightWave misses right now. It doesn't have a proper layer rendering system.
Yeah, the Janus was doing that like a separate scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you render just this piece, and yeah, I know. In Octane you can do layers now also, so it's a cool. There's a layers option.
Yeah, we also had Uber passes as well. Oliver made a solution, didn't he? Very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Uber Pass. Yes, I do have it. I haven't actually used it that much, to be honest.
Naughty boy.
Well, Oliver makes a lot of things, and so there was a lot. I had his tools, but I hardly ever use any of them. But every now and again, there's oh yes, there's a little thing in one of his tool sets, and then you have to remember where it is. Luckily, we've got the flat search now.
Yeah, that's a saver. That feature is the best feature of LightWave 2019. Flat search panel.
Yeah, is it control space, right?
Yeah, control space. I mean, that's just a shortcut. You can change it, but yeah, it's in most programs. Control space does that pop-up, except in Blender, probably. Yeah, they always have a shortcuts for.
They always do a different thing because they're Blender.
Yeah. I mean, in Fusion is also control and space bar. In After Effects, you have a control and space bar, so it's kind of universal for pop-up and search. So
yeah, control space was like, and it works on all the drop-down menus as well. It wasn't just one place; it was everywhere. It saved so much time. You know when I need to parent this object to this one, and if you don't use the scene, I usually do that with scene editor. But if you use the pop-up and you had like 100 or 200 items in the scene, that scroll list was like forever.
Now you just filter it. That's a great feature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was great to see that. What would be your number one feature that you would want to see in LightWave moving forward?
Slide tool.
Yes. Let's slide.
Yeah. I mean, I use the Unislide because it's a third-party plugin for LightWave, but that tool was made like 10, 12 years ago, and then they made a 64-bit version, which was a saver because I couldn't really work in 32-bit anymore. No more RAM usage was bigger, so I couldn't. And the tool, as much as it works greatly, has like 2 bugs, which sometimes can crash Modeler. Sometimes it's just annoying, and that guy doesn't even have email anymore, or he's gone basically. I couldn't find him. I tried to contact him and everything, so I don't have an option for any other slide tool for sliding polygons, edges, and points basically. And every other application has it. So that's my biggest gripe with Modeler right now.
There is a slide tool built into the Edge tools that built.
It has a problem with the workflow. You need to copy everything because it's a mesh sync tool. If you have a big mesh, high poly count, it takes like 10 seconds to start, and it doesn't respect selections. So it slides everything or just one edge. A loop or one edge, which has no sense for my usage. And yeah, it just needs to be updated then, basically, to respect selection and to get faster start or something like that. And then, yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah.
And it needs to respect UVs. That's another thing, because when you have an object with UV and you slide the edge, as you know, because you change the point position, it got destroyed. UV is like all skewed and scrambled, but other software have a check mark, fix UV or like adapt or something like that. So the new position doesn't really destroy UVs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in Maya also, in Modo, and Blender, and Max. Yeah, so I need that slide tool.
Do you have a project that you worked on that have been sort of insane for you to work on that you can showcase?
Yeah, I have several projects. Yeah, but let me start. Find on my see this one.
Yep. Nice.
You remember what's that car? That's basically Mad Max car from the first version, and I did it for Oscars opening because the studio, Luminous Studio, back then worked on the Oscars opening Hollywood start. See, it is small resolution back then in 2006. So this car was part of that.
Oh,
See,
cool.
It's here. 18 Annual Academy Awards show opening. See, that's the Mad Max car. And then I did another one. It was a Blue Thunder also in that video.
Oh, cool.
See, Blue Thunder is visible also here. Yeah, it flies by in the video. Yeah. Oh, and then for the last show, it's this UPS truck delivering the Oscar statue, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger gets out of the truck. He was the driver.
Nice.
So back then, yeah, that was like 2006. But I did so many of those car projects, like that Acura MDX. I was actually this was made from the, as they call it, scan data. But people just think you just scan the car and that's it. That's not how it works, because interior, you cannot really scan that way. They just tape the car with small, like you get like a duct tape, but very thin one, and you just tape everything and in cross and this section, and then you click with the scanner. It has like a mouse button, and it looks like a crane, and you click on every section to create a polygon. Basically, you need to click 4 times to create a polygon. And then you get something like, for instance, see this engine was created from the scan data in 2005. But see how the scan data looks, basically. This is what I get.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And you need to create this. So I get 2,864 polygons, and I created 147,000 polygons back then in 2008, and all subdivision. So this is the scan data. So this is, see, all these lines, they are basically just direction of these pipes. See?
Yeah.
And because they cannot really reach anything here or under here, you can't really, because that arm from the scanner is like 2 meters with like a 2-3 gimbal. And you move it and scan it that way, and it takes like 2 days to get this, because you need to tape all the data. And that's how I made that Acura. And let me show the wireframes. Everything is modeled there. There is only few textures. See, this is the wireframe, like this airbag logo. See, text is the texture. No textures. Everything is still modeled. See, all this is modeling.
Oh, yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
See, even the buttons. See, the text. Everything is modeled. See, the horn logo. Basically, everything has a geometry. The stitching is the geometry. All the numbers on the dial. See, only this is texture, and the leather, of course, for the seating. It has UV maps and everything, so I can texture the leather. See the knurling on the dials. It's all model, all the subdivision. See here also. Yeah. So then you can render all the close-ups. It does. I have these in 5K, but see, you easily then turn on the lights, because that's the geometry. You just make geometry to glow.
No, I mean, not on the. So if you've got, like, say, a close up of leather, and it's just a texture, does that not stop working? Do you not need to do a displacement map, or?
Yeah, these only the texture, but this is geometry inset actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be insane to model this, but there is no point. Yeah. But all this thing, they didn't want displacement. They just want it modeled, so they cannot. Even this is model. This sticker. So it's kind of everything is. See on the A pillar, there is SRS airbag, but it's so dense you cannot really read. But it has so many text, and this is how I go from subdivision level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you transition. See, the dashboard was like subdivision 1, and then I subdivided another, and then you weld like this is more dense, and it goes to less dense and less and less. But it follows the the same curvature. And for this, I also use one tool which they made after my nagging, heat shrink, basically. Because when you model the logo and press it to, because see, this is not really straight. It has a curvature. So yeah, it's, see, all these buttons.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah.
a curve. So that this also, you need tools like that for, I need them for everyday usage. I know the people is going to laugh when you said, I just need a slide tool. But that's the tool I use like 100 times a day. If I use a plugin which does like, I don't know, some kind of magic, but I use it one times in the month, I have more usage for this, which I use every day. So it's kind of, yeah, looks small, but yeah.
That's some insane detail in modeling there, and it's all sub Ds, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Everything is sub-D, except I think the text CDs are not sub-D, but they are like a dense, so you don't see the curvature on the render, because I got the like EPS file from the manufacturer, so the icons are really, once they use the font, that font for the real car. So yeah, I got like a one plate of like 50, 60 different icons and like 50 text. So I had to place them on position, and all this is made with the heat press. When everything is modeled, you just move the modeling close, rotate, and heat press by normal, and it sticks to that. See, so
yeah.
it's so it's really, really useful. But see, this is modeled. You cannot really beat. Well, today you can do magic with displacement, but yeah, back then this was like 2012, so like 11 years ago.
Oh
Yeah.
Wow.
Displacement was not a thing back then, at least not as it's now.
Well, you wouldn't have gotten the edges.
Yeah.
You would have had to have done basically what you would need is pixel subdivision, wouldn't you? Which we don't have, which would be nice if we did.
Yeah, I didn't even need to render this car. I was just hired to model it, and then I get the permission to render it 7 years after NDA. NDA was like 7 years.
Oh wow.
when they stopped making this car. and then I got NDA lift in 2019, basically. And I did it in 2012. And I have some projects which have an NDA forever. So, yeah. But see, yeah, all this text is bending to conform to the buttons.
Yeah. And that was heat shrink that you used to actually place that.
Yeah, that was heat shrink, but now we have heat press, basically, the native plugin. I used the heat shrink, was the third-party plugin back then.
Oh, yeah, it was. Okay, yeah, true.
And there is one in Light 3D Powers, the LightWave brush version now. It's similar, but it has some kind of different functions.
I think that one's a lot more powerful.
Native tool, yeah. So that's the. And then I did this Boeing for some kind of movie project also. It's also subdivision C. So it has.
Oh yeah. Wow.
322,000 subdis and all suspension. Yeah, those are basically. And this was a fun project for some kind of idea of the train, modern train, but it never picked up. And then for the movies, this car was ended in some private movie, and then I made a Christmas card after.
Nice.
Out of, and I made this when you got a spline tool. Yeah, this is updated version. But when we got the spline in LightWave, so create instance over the spline. So I just, this is spline like wrapped around the car, and then instanced all this Christmas decoration. If you look close, you see it's dipping in the body and some, but on the first look it looks okay. If you are not really a 3D guy, you wouldn't notice that. Yeah.
There's some beautiful work there.
Yeah, thanks. So, and as the people know me by the cars, I do a lot of Yacht renders and Archviz. But for the cars recently, I worked with the Lexus animations for the Lexus International. And there was like, I worked with Fox and Wizard. They were comping all this, and then I was getting the CAD models, which I had to surface. And as you probably know, with the CAD data, when you get like 1,000 layers with cryptic names, it takes some time to organize everything and surface everything.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
And that's another thing I would like as a feature for Modeler to be faster with so many polygons. Because even just cut and paste layers takes like a lot of time. I mean, not just in Modeler, but yeah, why do we need to be slower than anything else? We can be faster in some areas. So this is the second commercial for Lexus, yeah. And yeah, now they like it, so they want to do everything in 3D. And this was actually everything was done in LightWave except the water. That was simulation in Blender. And then we exported OBJ sequence, which then I loaded in LightWave as OBJ sequence and resurfaced, and then OD tools helped, so I could resurface like thousands of objects in quickly. So I don't need to load one by one because they have. But Fox and Wizard did a good job on simulation for the water and later comping. Yeah, it took some hefty time to do it. Actually, it's not the water. They wanted some kind of black liquid, which is not oil, which is not water, so it's not dripping from the car or something like that. It just looks cool. Yeah. But it reacts to the car basically. See, when it goes up. We use the real car, but optimized version, because this one has 35 million polygons. So you couldn't really use that for any kind of simulation. I don't think anybody simulates with that many polygons.
No.
What did you say? 35 million polygons?
Yep. And I removed the unnecessary parts, like behind the grille, engine, and something in the trunk and stuff, like, because it has this, it's a CAD model from the company, so you get like from some kind of NURBS software, like, I don't know, SolidWorks or CATIA or Pro Engineering. So you get like millions and millions and millions, because it just depends what level they freeze it basically before exporting to polygons. And in these cases, like smooth groups also helped a lot, because in this car you have like a license plate holder here, which is plastic, then cuts the grille, and they don't want really license plates on this kind of videos. So when you remove it, you get like gaps, empty space here. And then you need to remodel this piece, which is kind of tricky because only this grille has like 2 million polygons. And the problem without smoothing groups would be because you cannot really add to vertex normals. There is no way in LightWave to add it. But with the smooth groups, I could get the same smoothing because I use the smooth groups for the model parts and it's seamless. See, you cannot really see the difference. So it's not just for the game stuff. It's useful for a lot more stuff. But yeah, as I said, people don't really use it much because nobody showed them what's the LightWave Digital hopefully will have a better marketing than we had it in NewTek. So it's going to present the videos about new tools, usability, and everything like that. So it's going to help.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Bishop, we had him on the last episode, and That's what was one of his key things. He said that if you develop a new tool, you need to present that tool to the users so that they understand what it does.
You just don't throw it and say, okay, we get a new feature, but you show them like possible usage, and then the people is going to find other usages, of course, which probably developers didn't even think about, but that's the nature of the beast. So that's a cool part. Yeah, you get like a side effect which works for something else greatly. Like in this case, for this job, because the smooth groups are not really in essence made for that, but yeah, I had a different usage and it worked. Yeah.
Nice.
And then a lot of people don't really know, but I did more Archviz than I did cars. I did like last time when I counted, it was like 220, 30 cars so far, and I did like 1,000 Archviz projects. See, these are some of the Archviz, like hotel rooms. Everything is modeled, textured, rendered by me.
Yeah, and using LightWave, and you use Octane, right? All the time.
Yeah, these are Octane renders. I switched to Octane in 2014, basically when they released version 2, and I kept using it and just buying more GPUs.
Now, how many do you have now?
9.
9 GPUs in one machine?
No. 3 machines. You cannot really stick them in one machine because they're so thick now. One GPU like takes 4 slots currently.
True.
4090 and 3090.
You need some server racks, like server-based motherboards, because I think I shouldn't say anything more than that because I shouldn't talk about work. But I think there are solutions where you can sort of build computers where you can have like 20 GPUs in one computer, but that's very special hardware that costs like millions or something like that.
Yeah, currently, I mean, I have always workstation motherboards. I have Threadripper Pro with 7 PCI slots, but the problem is if you stick GPU in the slot number 1, it covers slots 2, 3, and 4. So the next GPU can go in slot 5. So you can only have 2 or 3 GPUs. I have 3 GPUs in my workstation, but one uses extender. So I have like, you need to, if it's not water cooled, you need a lot of air between GPUs to cool them down. So I have one in slot number 2, and that goes up to the slot number 5, and then the another one in slot number 7, and then I have an extender in slot number 1, so I can use like 3 GPUs in one machine. And with powered GPUs used today, like 500 watts, you really cannot stick the 7 GPUs because it would be like 5 kilowatts or 3 kilowatts. I mean, then you have a problem with the sockets, electricity in your home or stuff like that. So
true.
Even if you get the server which can hold like 10 GPUs, how would you power it? I mean, of course, you can buy a server which costs like $100,000, but it's not feasible for one-man band. My studio is often I get some help. If I have too much work, then I outsource something. But I need basically to buy like workstations, not servers. And the server motherboards don't have like 10 USBs, and I have like a 3 mouse, Wacom, audio, microphone, and you don't really have a server is not made for that basically. So you need workstation motherboard, not server motherboard. So at least for our work.
But wasn't there these ideas that you could build like a tower case that only contained GPUs, and then you connected them to the computer in some way? Or so you could have
there was external GPU racks and some people use it, but the problem is it gets some kind of special cable, and that rack like has 4 GPUs and they are spread like 1 or 1.5 slots, so there is airflow, which is okay, and that case has its own PSU, so it doesn't really draw power from your machine. It's a separate, basically separate box motherboard which has only GPUs. But the problem is that one slot is shared between 4 GPUs. So you don't have a 16x connection, but like 2 or 4 depends on how the PCI Express is made in that box. So it's not really that good today, but back then it was really, really only option to use so many GPUs, like 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. But nowadays, you buy two 4090 and you have like 32,000 cores in GPUs. I mean, 32,000 cores. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
And now I remembered one project when you asked me, did I work on some crazy project? I worked in the lighting company for like many, many years. So I was using lights, and then we finally get IES lights in LightWave. Also, I was like pushing for that a lot in LightWave beta. And then I used see this project shows the lights on position. And this one has only like 185 lights. But I had one tunnel between Europe and Asia, which was built like 4 or 5 years ago, but that was like 10 years ago when we started. And the tunnel was, I think, not really sure now, 11 kilometers or something like that. And I had 12,000 lights in the tunnel.
Geez.
But the problem is that the tunnel was not really straight. So it got down and curved and stuff like that. And I had to use, people ask, well, why don't you fake it? But, well, because I worked in the lighting design company and we had to see, is that going to work? We didn't really increase the light intensity to make it look pretty. We had to know, is that going to work? Not, is it going to be pretty? So it's a big difference when you need to just make it pretty. No, that's not. If it doesn't work, we need to know. So we need to increase the more lights or less dense, less spread between them and stuff like that, and change the optics. And that's why we get IS lights in LightWave. But the OD tools saved the day. That was like in 2015 or so, in Light 2015, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I made a spline, clone the light mesh with instances. But since we cannot really clone the lights in LightWave, instance the lights, you had to create the clones. But 12,000 clones is a massive task. And how do you clone the lights? And then OD Tools made a plugin part of the OD Tools which clones two instances. That's how it's called. So you create one light, one IS light, and clone it to instancer, which clones the object of that light. So I got light was working 15 minutes or so to clone all these lights to position. But I got it working and I didn't do anything basically except waited 15 minutes. If I had to do it manually, I would probably still doing it. Yeah. So it's kind of that's like a specialty plugin which you use like once in a time, but it saves the life basically. But
God. Yeah, hand placing to what do you say? 12,000 lights. Yeah, that would be
12,000 lights, yeah. Because they wanted the renders of every like 100 or 200 meters, because there was different road section, different markings on the tunnel. So it was like, give me 100 renders. So I couldn't really just manually do those parts of the tunnel. It would be still too much work. So it was like, how we can do it. And then Oliver from Origami Studios, Origami Digital, basically made the OD tool plugin for that, which was like a lifesaver back then.
Yeah, I can imagine. Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, and then I'll have a lot of projects like this. This is the house, which is like dropped in the photo montage. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But it's actually built right now. in Adriatic coast. So like, or this one, that was one of the latest projects, and this is started to build this year, should be done next year. It's a house which looks like a boat.
Yeah.
That was the idea, and it's huge. I mean, this console is like 25 meters. So basically, the architect had to go with a static engineer to see is that gonna stand or fall.
Oh yeah.
So they made it. So basically, they made it like a bridge. It goes like this, and then down in the ground like 5 meters, and goes back. And the garage is basically counterbalance for the house. So the garage is holding the house, basically.
So if he empties out the garage, the house might fall. Is that what you're saying?
You always need to have a Lamborghini in garage. Yeah. And I made the animation. It has on my YouTube channel. It's complete animation, basically. I just speed it up now, but yeah, it's and then the time lapses and stuff like that. They just wanted to show how fancy is it gonna be, but it's a huge. I mean, it looks like okay, but when you see the car comparison, you see how big this thing is.
Yeah. I mean, this sorry.
And they made music especially for this video. They just hired the guy to create the music for the video.
Cool.
So it was
Nice.
just.
What do you find? What do you find more fun? Oh yeah.
But I had to incorporate some cars. Yeah, it would be not my video if there was no cars. Yeah.
Of course.
Of course, and you've got like thousands of them, so you can just load it from your library.
Yeah. Just which one do you want? Yeah. Plug in. Yeah.
But yeah, I have to ask you now. What do you find most fun to do? Is it making cars or these types of projects that you just showed here? I mean, that must be super exciting to work on.
This project basically, I had to let me show. See, I even had to model that's actually mountain behind the house, because the house is just slightly up in the mountain, and like when you look down, it's a sea. Like 1 kilometer down is Adriatic Sea, so it has a great view, and this has billions and billions of trees, instance, and the grass displacements, plants. I have like so many. In this case, see what I did most challenging was, let me show one. See these vines or ivy, how do you call it?
Oh yeah.
Because
the ivies.
Yeah, the architect was really specific. He wanted the ivy on this rock, so I couldn't really just place the ivy wherever I want. He was fly to my house, my studio. He was here 3 days, and he was sitting near me, and I was clicking all this, modeling the paths for the ivy here, until he was happy. So
Wow.
it's kind of challenging. I mean, yeah, of course, now it looks okay, there's some ivy, but yeah, he wanted ivy on this rock. And then in LightWave, because these rocks are separate meshes, so I had to, when you put them in layout and you load them in modeler, and everything else is in modeler except the trees and the rocks and stuff like that, you don't have this rock there. So I had to use save transformed from layout, load that in modeler to see where the rock is, basically. Because if I would do like a model with all the rocks and trees, it's not possible to have that heavy model. So instancing was helping here, but then I had a problem with how do I now put the ivy on exactly on every rock they want. There's plenty more around. It's visible in the video more. See, ivy goes into crevices around the rocks. So it's not really that easy. But sometimes you just need a break from the cars. And then I do like 2-3 architectural projects, and then I dream, oh, come on, please give me to model some cars again. Because in the cars, everything is exact. There is no, can you move it like this or this?
Oh yeah.
You know how it looks. It needs to look that way. There is no other way. I mean,
yeah, having someone backseat you like that, you become their tool, which is
yeah, I mean,
super annoying.
he was here in my house 3 days, and we worked like up to 2 a.m. or something like that. We worked like 9-10 hour sessions. When we fixed it, was not just not Ivy, but I modeled the. He took some photos from the site, so I modeled basically the hills behind to look exactly. I mean, as much as possible. Of course, it's not always the same. To have the same hills, because we could do the photo montage for the stills, but for the video it would be like,
that's nightmare.
I'm not VFX house to have such production and drawn stuff. Yeah, I have a photo because I'm doing the photos and videos editing also. But yeah, it was not really feasible with the budget they have. But at least, yeah, we did something in 3D. Everything is 3D. Only the sky is comped, basically. So it's a fun sometimes to go to different and see like the project like this with so many foliage.
Wow.
It would be impossible without instancing.
Yeah. And I guess you used a lot of HD instance before LightWave got its own instancer.
Yeah. I used HD instance, and DP instance also.
Oh, DP instance. Yeah. Of course, he also made one.
Yeah. DP instance was great back then. Until we got the native one, then I switched because it's always kind of better to be native.
Yeah, you never know when things break and all that stuff, and of course.
Yeah, if you don't have a solution, sometimes it's faster. Even if you have a proactive developer of third party, it can be even beneficial. But yeah, sometimes it's heavy because you cannot really send the complete scene to somewhere because you have NDA or something like that. So what do? I mean, it's much harder. Yeah. And then I do project like this where I model the yachts and render them, like Yacht Interiors. These are basically all small 50-meter yacht, 40-meter yacht. These are small cruiser ships, basically, so they have cabins.
Wow.
It's a different versions, multiple versions of. And in Croatia, we have like more than 100 of these ships. And it's a basically vacation. You like rent a room on the ship, which is small ship, basically. It has like 10 to 15 rooms, nothing fancy. And it's a 7-day cruise. But it's fantastic because it's not like you have a pool on the ship, so you just cruise on the big city. You just with these small ships, you go into different cities, different locations, and you have a swim stop before lunch, after lunch, like 2-3 hours swimming in the sea, and then everyone goes back to the lunch on the saloon in the ship. You have a gym, massage, everything. See the saloon for eating, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's all kind of projects, and then I do product Viz, or how it's called, design.
Product visualization and design.
Yeah, like helmets, like some kind of alcohol, watches. See, toothbrush. I actually did animation for this for a toothbrush. It's in the folder, so yeah, you can play it. Or this oil.
Wow, everything modeled. Sub-D.
Yeah, of course.
of course.
It's so insane to see this.
Yeah, these was like a crazy. See, these is like a sunflower shape embedded in the bottle. but you can't really displace it that easy because it has a thickness also. The bottle, the plastic.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's always better to have it modeled. Like this is one of the latest one because they wanted the frozen beer effect, and the droplets are problematic always, yeah.
Yep.
But in this case it worked okay. When you zoom, you see all kind of droplets, yeah. But this is funny because this is texture for the droplets. I tried with instancing, but it was too hard. I modeled like 5-6 different drops, but you can't really get drop to merge in the other drop and make the bigger drop. It's kind of hard, so it was easier with the texture, displacement, and then few of instance drops, and then product design like this. See, these are goggles for drones.
Come again? Jones?
Drones.
Drones.
Drone, when you fly a drone.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a goggles which you have a screen and you see from the drone camera basically. Or like this. This was like a 3D scan. And then I did retopo in 3D code and made everything subdivision because the scan model was like, of course, all triangles and it has like 5 million polygons and everything is glued together, laces, everything, I mean, logo, everything is, you see it's scanned basically. You need to separate everything. That's the problem with the scan. But when you see it like this, yeah.
Wow.
And this was a fun project. In Croatia, there's a Vukovar that was the city in the war which like got too much damage, and this was like a water tower. This is like 51 meter tall in reality, and after the war in 90s when we split, blah blah blah. That's in the past now. No need to remember, but they wanted to make a souvenir because today in this area that's like 10-15 meters tall here, they made a museum because there is an elevator which goes like 30 meters up and you can go up to the roof, and they wanted to create souvenirs. So I modeled this in LightWave and then exported, but they wanted all the grenade shots to be visible. See, that's the holes. That's only the big ones because there was like over 300 shots in the tower because they wanted to destroy it, but they couldn't. They hit it so many times. And then the fun part, because when I exported this to the 3D print and they had the SLS printer, which like prints from the powder, like it costs like $50,000 is the printer. But see how it looks cool. When it goes up, then you clean it with the brush and you get the exact model, see?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then they use this to create the mold, negative mold, basically, because I couldn't really, I told them, no, I can't model in negative. That's going to be completely mind-boggling. I can model you this, and then you create the mold out of this. There is no way I could model this inverted. I mean,
you just take a cube, Boolean subtract, sort it.
yeah. But you have I had a drawing from architects which every hit and the shape, so I had to create it exactly like this. But how would you? I mean, it would be like this would be model and this would be hole. No, guys, let me show you. But yeah. It was a nice, and that's made basically when you visit in Vukovar near my town, you can go in, that's basically a museum now, and you can buy those figures. They have like a smaller one is like 15 centimeters and the bigger one is like 35 centimeters, and you can buy the souvenir, and they just painted after the mold process, so it's a cool, yeah. Or products like they see all subdivision. That's some kind of products for females, probably.
Now, did you model the mesh?
No, that's the texture. Because I didn't render it. If I was rendering, maybe I would model it. See, I just rendered for my portfolio, but they used it in commercial video on TV. Looks okay. When you have subdivision, I mean, of course it's harder to model subdivision, but you have infinite quality basically. You can zoom as much as you want. You just increase the level, and it's always smooth. I mean, it's always smooth, round, everything is there. So it's kind of hard to resist. One time I even create a building in subdivision just for fun. Yeah, I just wanted to see is it possible. These are product designs also. Yeah. And there's even the video for Zip Tile is the product. It's some kind of home automation system. Yeah. That's a classic presentation of what the product can do. And this was a fun because in LightWave, when you do morph, you can like explode it. So that's easy. In LightWave, just explode the morph and then animate in layout the morph. There is no need to move each part individually.
Oh yeah, true.
You just morph it and you have a slider, which is great. So yeah, a lot of projects.
Wow, man.
And this is that toothbrush project.
We've all got a favorite gadget, or two, or three. They're great until they're not. What's the point of wireless technology if we're still tethered to charging cables? Introducing ISA 2 from Pareo, the world's first silicone sonic toothbrush. Offering 365 days of use with only one charge, ISA 2 outlasts every other device in your life, especially that antique. This revolutionary design features bacteria-resistant silicone for a softer, cleaner way to brush. With high-intensity pulsations and 2 times the power, ISA 2 creates micro-sweeps that break up and remove plaque for a whiter, brighter smile.
This was a fun part. They sent me the actual toothbrush, and these bristles really do move up to this point. These few do nothing. I was like, why? I mean, and then when I got the real brush, I realized why. I mean, these are just easy. But it was a fun project because all the bristles are model. And then I tried bones, I tried morph. So basically I used some kind of cage. Like there's 3D Powers one, lattice deformer, something like that, basically.
Oh yeah.
To move the bristles because they had to move fast, but we couldn't make them move fast exactly as they move because they move like hundreds of times in the minute. So you wouldn't really see. You would see like just one blur. So it was like, okay, slow it down like 5 times, so at least we see the bristle moving. But the fun part is I got this model from the company in CAD data, and then when you get bristles in CAD data and one bristle had 100,000 polygons, it's not possible to animate that thing, and it's all kind of full of triangles and polygons. So I had to remodel all these bristles manually in subdivision so I can move them. So I have less polygons. So it's kind of silly from that kind of small project, but yeah, there's the stuff you need to do sometimes. Yeah.
Cool, man. This one question that I have, sort of going back to let's say talking about the community and all that stuff. What do you think would help the community to be, positive and constructive and engaging moving forward? Now with LightWave Digital, having bought the product.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they need to be more open to the users, especially now with payment in advance, basically. They just need to engage with community more. Of course, I don't expect them every day, but give us some hints like every week or every 2 weeks. Show us, entertain the people, basically let them know what's happening. We cannot really go to the new tech silence like 1, 2, 3 years of silence. That's not going to work, especially nowadays when everything is online, everything is on YouTube. I mean, they could even do, when they're certain they have some feature for LightWave 2023, show some glimpse. You don't need to show completely, just show something and people would be entertained for like a week chatting about what could that be. I mean, now we go back to the core. You remember when they had that countdown?
Oh,
People
yeah.
were crazy. Of course, it didn't end well, but it was a great marketing back then.
Yeah, it was the puzzles and stuff like that they made. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
this time they can make it work. And marketing needs to work harder, as we know, but it should work. And we need new forums, stuff like that. And of course, we know they're working on that. That's great. And basically, at some point when they start like organize everything inside whatever they need to do, could be nice to have like developer like once in 2 months or whatever. You make one dev present his own feature with his vision, how he created that, and then maybe get the feedback before, as they call it, too late, because we need gold master release. Oh no, there is no gold master release. I mean, you probably get the better result if you ask people who work with that than just some designer. I mean, of course, it's important to design the tool, and I'm not really suggesting that community design the tools. That's not going to work. Design by committee is not a good idea. It's not going to work. But at least show them something so they feel more engaged.
Yep. I think Andrew Bishop actually touched on that in the last episode.
I watched the episode, yeah. He's so enthusiastic and good.
Yeah. Is there anything that you felt that we haven't talked about that you would want to talk about? Or is there anything that we talked about that you would want to sort of expand a little bit on, thinking about it?
I just hope the community is going to give the chance for LightWave Digital to prove themselves in next like 2-3 releases, and then hopefully we can grow with LightWave faster. I mean, when you look back, like a lot of LightWave users are not really 20-year-old guys. So we have like 40, 50, 60. I mean, so we are a long time with the software. So they need to cater the old community, but they need to attract the new users. And you can't really attract the new users with a feature which some other package has. And you say, oh, of course, now we have like a UV map. Okay, but everybody has it, so it's not a big deal. I mean, the LightWave has to have something. And that's the basically marketing thing. You need to create some features which nobody else has, or LightWave has it faster or better.
Yeah,
it's hard to invent a new feature now that nobody else has it.
Yeah, what you can do is to improve and make workflows.
Make a better workflow. And if it's me, I told that like a long time in the beta, I would like if you create like a full point release like LightWave 10, or then it releases LightWave 10.1 or 2, I would make those only the workflow fixes, or like 10.5, doesn't matter, or 23.5. Don't add any feature, just fix the everyday stuff. Like if this tool needs 5 clicks to create something, now make it to be 3 clicks. And that's going to help a lot more than just like some fancy feature you use once in 2 months.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Fix bugs and improve the workflow.
Yeah, nothing else. I mean, give me the like half version or whatever is it. Even if it's small payment, I don't care. I just want the workflow fixes. You cannot really, if they just aim for the big features, I mean, how's that gonna be done? Because then you have every new version, you need some crazy big feature, which is not really possible now. Now there is a really, really small chance for new FPrime or something like that, what nobody else already has. So just improve the workflow. And they did that with that like a flat panel menu pop-up. That's a huge workflow boost.
Oh yeah.
I don't even create the menus in Modeler anymore. I just search for the function. I know how it's called. I don't even search for the menus before, because you have so many tabs and so many buttons, and sometimes you cannot really find the button which is not on the shortcut, because I am shortcut guy. I have like a mouse with 13 buttons and I program everything what I can, but that's like maybe 20 features. Everything else is on the keys or stuff like that, but you cannot really put all the features on the keys. And then you search, and in the past I was just going to the edit and the button menu and then search there, because that was the only way how to search for the function. so I can see where the button is. And now, I mean, you just control space bar and start typing, and it's fantastic. And that's nothing new. I mean, AutoCAD had that for like 15 years. I mean, that's just a workflow booster which boosts workflow tremendously.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, a lot of people don't even know about that even now, because it was never marketed as a big thing. I mean, it's not a big thing, like it's a big feature, but all this filtering, when you said like go in the motion options and start typing, you get a filter. Everything is filtered. You get to the tool, control space bar. Oh, okay, I need bevel. Just type in bevel. You don't need to search it. It's a great tool, especially for people which don't really work with the shortcuts, but they search for the buttons on the menu. And it's okay if that works for them. I'm fine, but yeah, this is faster. So yeah, I wish them good luck, and I'll try to help.
Who would you want to see on this podcast? An artist, a developer?
Definitely developer, yeah. That would be nice, but not sure is that even possible, because if developer cannot really talk about LightWave 2023...
Well, there are many types of developers. Point? There are plugin developers.
Yeah, like a Mike Wolf, for instance. Yeah, would be nice to see what's he up to currently.
He is planned for later. Thank you so much, Lewis. You have been an amazing artist over the years, and it's fantastic that you're still part of the LightWave family. And I'm looking forward to see more of your work. And we will share your website in the link below. And thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your amazing work with us here today.
Yeah, thanks guys for nice words, and yeah, nice chat. Let's hope for bright LightWave future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to say I'm looking forward to see what you do with whatever new stuff they invent, because sometimes you are often limited by the things that they don't have, and when you have it, suddenly it opens up a whole world of opportunity. So
yeah, that was happening when they made the instancing. Then I made this video just to test, does instancing work?
Oh, I remember that one.
That was rendered with the native. Yeah, yep. It's kind of, yes, small resolution now but I used the instancing and I used the flocking for the birds. See?
Oh yeah.
Because those were two new features, the big features back then, and it was like impossible before to render this kind of polygon count. And then I had to add a twist on my way.
That's so nice.
It's not just the cars.
Oh no, of course.
They park parking lot alone.
We need to have more parking lots like that.
Yeah. With the new cars. Maybe I'll update it one day.
Thank you very much, Lewis.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. That was Lewis. What a very talented artist and fantastically creative person. Please go and visit him on his website, and you can get in touch with him. I'm sure we can provide contact details if anybody really wants to speak to him. A lovely guy, very helpful in the community, and always willing to share.
And next month, we also have a very special guest, so don't miss that one out.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on lightwavedigest@gmail.com. If you've got any news or you want to be a guest on the show, would love to have people interested people in very diverse backgrounds. As long as obviously you're not just a Blender artist pretending to be a Lightwave artist. You know what I'm saying. But would love to have people on. Hear the story of the history of Lightwave and the many talented users that have been using it over the years.
And also, if you actually want to help us become a team member of LightWave Digest, contact us as well.
So be sure to like and subscribe, and hope we'll see you next month.
See you next month. Bye-bye.
Ciao.